Hey kids, in this episode of Sci-Fi Review, we're going to talk about TNT's Snowpiercer. Stay tuned. So TNT series Snowpiercer, there's a little bit of a history here that it goes back to. There's a series of French graphic novels, the name of which I'm not even going to try to butcher, that involves... okay. The whole world is... They tried to correct, global warming by injecting something into the atmosphere, and it had the complete opposite effect, turned the whole entire planet into a giant ice ball. Everything died, except for a train. So this Mr. Wilford guy spent trillions and bazillions of dollars making a giant rail network across the entire planet that could sustain a train that is like 1,000 cars long indefinitely, using some sort of special perpetual motion engine, the sacred engine, that just works. I don't know how it works. It's the perpetual motion sacred engine. Don't question the sacred engine, man. Just believe it's there, I guess. Which, okay, that's part of the shtick, I guess, but the engineer in me is sitting here going, now, wait a minute. You can't have a train track that goes around the world, that this massive 1,000-car train, these cars aren't normal train car size. They're like 3 times the size of a regular car. This train is supposedly like 10 miles long, and people just bounce back and forth from one side to the other in a matter of seconds. Okay. In an earlier episode, I spoke about suspension of disbelief, right? Now, the setup on this show is really ridiculous, but it works. I don't know why it works. I'm not even sure why it works. You look at that and you go, that's pretty f***ing stupid, isn't it? But by the time you're into it, you don't care anymore. You're just believing it, and that's what suspension of belief is about, to where you can go, yeah, that seems rather dumb, but once you're in the middle of it, yeah, it don't matter. It's fine. It's cool. Kind of like, faster than light space travel. That's stupid. It doesn't actually work, but, we watch Star Wars and Star Trek, and yeah, but it works because I don't know why it works. It just works. But anyway, so now to preface this series, season 1's already over and done. Season 2's already started. There was a movie several years back called Snowpiercer. Basically the same premise, and this series, I don't want to say is like a reboot of that, but it basically is, and it looks very, very similar. That movie starring Chris Evans, Captain America, that Chris Evans, was basically a nice little self-contained package where the people in the back of the train, the tail section, had to fight their way forward through to the front of the train to get what's theirs. It's a nice little self-contained tale of class struggles and the hierarchies in society and all this stuff. It does all the commentary, checks all the little boxes, and it does so in a nice, neat little fashion. Oh, look, we have our train that's segmented off into the riffraff and the tail, and then the third class and second class, and then the highfalutin, first class where Mr. Wilford lives. Yeah, it's a little... the movie worked because it was a nice little self-contained package, and I was real hesitant to watch this series because I'm like, well, how are you going to turn that into a TV series? But they did it, and here's what they did. So basically, you're dealing with the same premise, but we're kind of starting over in that you've got your people in the back of the train that kind of weren't supposed to be on the train, but they stormed it and got on there and took the back of the train over from the third class, second class, whatever it is. But in this series, you basically got 2 main characters. I mean, there's a whole lot of almost main characters, but you basically got 2 main characters, maybe 3 by the end of the season 1. You've got Andre Layton, which is a former cop played by David Diggs. Sorry. And word gets out that he's an ex-detective from whatever, and there's been a murder up at the front of the train, and they need somebody to solve it. And so they find out this guy's a cop, and they come and get him. And we spend a good part of season 1 just playing detective story, but in the subtext, in the subtext, any context of this entire train where you got the cloud. I mean, it's like, okay, this works. I get it. And there's like a sunlight beam coming right into my face right here. Look at this. Ooh, my windows. Love it. Moving over here. Anyway, there's another one there. Wow, cool. But anyway, Andre Layton's trying to solve this murder. Goes all the way to the upper echelons of, the first class. But in the process, we find out that the illustrious Mr. Wilford, who supposedly sits at the front of this train and owns the train, and we're all supposed to give our allegiance to the great Mr. Wilford for giving us the opportunity to escape the extinction. He's not actually on the train. We don't know what happened to him. So you've got head of hospitality, Melanie, played by Jennifer Connelly, who's basically pretending to be Mr. Wilford, using old interviews to splice together new speeches and stuff like that. The sunspot. Man, I gotta block those windows. And by the end of season 1, we've had a total revolution. The tail section owns the train, basically. But who shows up? It's Mr. Wilford in another train, and he smashes in, and we set up season 2. Now, Mr. Wilford's played by Sean Bean, and sorry guys, have to do this. One does not simply walk to the front of the train. Yeah, had to do it, sorry. But yeah, he showed up and he wants his train back. So that's basically the setup for season 2. Now I'm 2 episodes in to season 2, and so far it's working. Again, I'm not sure why this works. I'm not sure why it doesn't. You don't just go, that's so stupid, this whole setup. I'm not sure why the setup doesn't eclipse the story, but it doesn't. So I'm not going to give this any kind of review yet. The movie, I would suggest go watch the movie first. That'll give you kind of a primer to what this is all about, because it is such a nice, neat package. But then you have to okay, that's over. Forget all that, because a lot of that is rather, Tilda Swinton's character is kind of a caricature of, I don't know maybe what was there in the graphic novels. I have not looked at those, to be honest. But some of it has that sort of Hunger Games-y type of, feel to it, with the comically ridiculous outfits and whatever. And it's just like, yeah, all right. But like I said, that's a nice little package. Watch that. Then come into season 1, go, yep, okay, I get it. And just roll with it. Like I said, I'm not giving this a rating till season 2 is over. Snowpiercer on TNT. I would suggest watching this just to see how you can take a completely ridiculous, ludicrous setup for a story and make it work. This has been Sci-Fi Review.